Hey everybody, it's Chainsaw. Today I'm reviewing the 17th studio album from Gravedigger entitled Return of the Reaper. Let's just jump into this record. So I've been a fan of Gravedigger for a few years now, and I've enjoyed most of their work, so hearing about the 17th studio album entitled Return of the Reaper, I was definitely excited. I enjoy their work, and I liked the new title, so I was anticipating this release, and so it's finally here. And I enjoy this album for the most part. Throughout this review, I'll be giving mostly positive feedback, but also there'll be some, you could say, negativity, but it's just more of, I wish that there was more to some of the stuff they did throughout this record. But mostly, this album is a positive review and a positive album. So, anyways, Gravedigger, Return of the Reaper. This album contains at least what I expected from Gravedigger. It contains some wow moments, some songs that really do stand out, and I overall think that this is a good album to add to the discography. I wasn't really necessarily disappointed with any of the production aspect of it, or some of the musicians, some of the choices they made, but it was just some of the songs that they put out on this release, that some of them didn't really live up to the capability of some of the other tracks on this album, because the songs and some of the sections within songs that really stand out are very standout songs and standout sections within songs. But then you go to some of the other tracks on this album that do have some capability, that does have something going on within it, but they really don't advance it to anything more than just, okay, it's the ideas building, okay, something's going to happen, and it doesn't necessarily finish off the way you expected. It kind of just it builds up to something that really doesn't happen, and that was something that I noticed with a couple of tracks, but it wasn't too many to where I was thinking negatively about this album, going, I'm not really sure about this. But for the majority of this album, I do enjoy it, because Gravedigger once again shows that even though they've come up with 16 prior releases to this one, that even though they've done 16 previous albums, that number 17 isn't going to feel and sound stale in a way. Now, some people may claim that, but for my personal opinion about this record, this album feels fresh in a sense. There are some really creative ideas. There are some very cool ideas, and I feel like that they successfully pull off most of the ideas they come up with for this album, and I have to give them that. Let me go through some of my favorite tracks within this record, and the ones I do not mention, the ones that I do not mention within this list are probably the ones that either they were building up something that didn't succeed in a way, or I just preferably just would rather skip to the next song. But for the most part, this album does contain, like I said, some pretty good songs. Return of the Reaper, the opening track, has this really eerie piano, and I swear I've heard this before many a times. Maybe they're playing a little bit different, maybe it's supposed to sound similar to something, but I swear I've heard this before. I just can't place it. Maybe I'm stupid, I don't know, but there's a piano opening Return of the Reaper, the title track, and then there's this really cool epic melodic bit that comes in, and then it kind of just goes away, and then boom, Hell Funeral comes in, and this is a pretty fast track. And throughout this record, before I continue on with the speed of these songs, most of the speed-wise with these songs, like riffs and sections and all that stuff, is mainly in that middle ground, because there are some fast, very fast-paced stuff, and then there are some slow melodic sections that kind of slow groove, but it's that really middle section that has the groove and kind of has that, groovy type, bang your head, nodding your head to the beat type speed. So that's the majority of what they stuck with, but there are some fast-paced and some slow-down sections, but for the most part, it's that bob and head, middle section, to where it's not too fast, not too slow. It's kind of right, and I feel like that Gravedigger, for the most part, succeeded in this, doing this throughout the record. The Hell Funeral, very good track. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the chorus, and the opening riff at the very beginning is very cool. War God, track number 3, another great track. I love the riffage on this song especially, and I enjoy the chorus as well. The chorus and the riffs are probably the high points throughout this record, is the riffing and the actual choruses, because I always catch myself singing the choruses, and the riffs are just catchy as hell. Tattooed Rider, that's a very groovy type track. That is one of those songs that where everything, in my personal opinion, everything about that song just fits right together. The chorus is great, the opening riff, the whole entire song, it just has a lot of groove to it, and it's a very catchy song, and so I feel like they succeeded with that. And it kind of reminds me of that older type metal type song, where it's one of those songs where everyone just gets into the groove and enjoys it, even if you don't know it. I feel like they succeeded with that kind of older aspect, older type metal riffage, so it's kind of hard to explain, but if you hear the song, you'll probably understand what I'm talking about. Season of the Witch, track number 6, skipping track number 5. Track number 6, Season of the Witch. I love the opening. I love that song. I love the riffs. The riffs. That's gonna keep. I'm gonna keep repeating that because it's just the truth. The riffs are just, I think, very catchy, and they're aggressive in some sense, and they're very good riffs nonetheless. Now they're not too technical in aspect, but the riffs are always catchy. But Season of the Witch, I love the title, and I like the performance of the band with that song. Road Rage Killer, I love the opening, the intro to that song. It's just a very catchy intro, and it kind of holds all the way through. And I enjoy what they do with that track. It's a very interesting thing they did there. Satan's Host, track number 9. The bass in the beginning is just very, very cool. Now track 11, Death Smiles at All of Us. Now this is probably the most catchy chorus, in my personal opinion, on this record. Death Smiles at All of Us. I don't know why. I just found myself, while listening to this track, just singing along with the chorus, and I'm just going, I'm trying to listen to the album. I'm trying to, get ready for this review, and I'm keep repeating the lyrics and just keep singing. So that must be good for something, because I always catch myself singing it. So gotta give that positive there. Nothing to Believe, track number 12. Now, there are two similarities with Return of the Reaper by Gravedigger and Judas Priest, Redeemer of Souls. Number one, this is, this year, as the similarities, Judas Priest, Redeemer of Souls, and Gravedigger, Return of the Reaper, both 17th releases on this year, and track number 13 on Judas Priest, Redeemer of Souls, they close with a very melodic and simple and peaceful type song. And Nothing to Believe, track number 12 from Gravedigger on Return of the Reaper, is that same light as well. The only difference is that throughout the chorus, when the chorus comes up, the actual heavy guitars come in, but it's kind of it's a very melodic type sense. They're playing along with those chords they're hitting with the actual distorted guitars that come in for the chorus. So that's the only difference. But besides that, it's a very peaceful song. It's a very interesting way to close this album, as the album has a bunch of packing punches with all these damn songs. But Nothing to Believe kind of slows it all down and brings it to a very different type of closing. But I have to give it that. It's a different closing, but it's good in the sense of my opinion. But the songs that I did not mention contains, they contain sections, or the whole entire song, I just didn't enjoy it as much as those that I just mentioned. But overall, this album, I think, is a good release. So, those few songs that I necessarily don't like as much didn't really hinder the score too much, but in a sense, I can't give this album a very high rating, because there are some songs and some sections within tracks that I'm just really going, I wish they would have done a little bit more with that. I wish they would have expanded the idea a little bit more, to maybe the song could have went in a different direction for the positive direction. But in a sense, the majority of the album is good, so I think any Gravedigger fan will enjoy it. But for me, I enjoy most of the record, and I'll listen to the entire record, on occasion, but after this review. But, those few songs I did not mention within my, favorite tracks are ones that I feel like they could have did a little bit more with those. Personnel, we'll just jump right to that. Chris on vocals, I feel like his vocal performance is good. I enjoy the lyrical content. Some of it may be a little bit cheesy in a sense in some cases, but that's what it is. Not all lyrical content and not all lyrics are going to be fantastic, 100% epic and all that, but overall I enjoy his vocal performance. His vocals, I feel like, are pretty good for this release, and I feel like that he did a good job on this album, so nothing wrong there. Axel on guitars. It says A-X-E-L. Axel on guitars. The guitar work, as I was saying throughout this release, is fantastic. The riffage, the rhythm playing is just great. The riffs are not always technical and going very fast. It's just that there's more creativity, I think, within this album, with the riffs being a little bit slower in that middle ground, as I was saying earlier within this review, because the riffs kind of can do a little more with the chords, or doing a little bit more with the notes, instead of playing so fast that where you're just playing really fast and the notes are just flying by, and it's kind of I gotta repeat that, I gotta hear that again. But when the songs are kind of slower, you can hear these riffs pop a little bit more, and they can punch you harder. So the rhythm section is definitely a very high point. The solos, when you finally get to the solos, I think are satisfying, and they do give you what you at least expect from a solo. They are shreddy in a sense. There are some melodic moments within the solos, but overall I think the solos are very catchy, and I feel like they fit right along with the songs, and the guitar playing overall is just great nonetheless. So Jen's on bass. I hope I'm saying that correct. Bass guitar is turned up, and I enjoy that because it does heavy up this album in a sense, because there are those groovy tracks, especially the groovy tracks in that middle ground section. When those songs hit, or those sections within the songs hit, where it's that groove aspect, where it's just to bob your head and get into the music and enjoy it, and that bass, it definitely does help out a lot. So you got to give credit there, and he did a good job nonetheless on this record. Stefan, I hope I'm saying his name right, probably not, on drums, because as you guys all know, I'm bad with names to begin with. But the drumming on this album, I think, is pretty good. It's not fantastic in a sense. I wasn't really blown away by the drums per se, because there are some moments where the drumming can be on the little simplistic side in a sense, but I still have to give credit where credit is due, because the drumming, I think, does help out in some sections. I feel like the drumming is helping these songs, as they're progressing along. So it isn't like so simple to where it sounds like, okay, the band's on another level while the drummer's way back here. The drummer's keeping up in a sense, but I feel like the drumming could have been a little bit more. That's what I'm saying. Now, the actual drum sound, I think, is pretty good, and I enjoy the drum sound, but I feel like the playing could have been a little bit more. But overall, looking at the whole entire record, 12 tracks of the drums, I feel like that 90% of it is good, and it's working, and it succeeded, I think. Now, HP, I'm just going to say, because it says HP on my cheat sheet. Keyboards. The keyboards are heard throughout this release. It's pretty loud, but in a sense, the keyboards I can do without in some senses. There are some moments where the keyboards were happening, and I was thinking like, well, I just want to hear the actual guitars, bass, and drum, and the vocals or whatever. But when the keyboards do happen in certain sections, I do enjoy them. But for this release, as I'm listening to this album, I kind of think sometimes maybe how this album would feel if it was just, guitars, bass, drums, and vocals instead of keyboards thrown into the mix. I understand why they're there, but that's just my personal opinion. But overall, the band sounds great. The production, I feel like, is pretty good. I didn't mention this at the beginning, which I should have, but the album artwork is pretty damn cool. The Grim Reaper on the carriage with the two horses in the coffin behind him. Pretty dark looking album artwork. But Return of the Reaper by Gravedigger. I feel like it's a pretty good album. It's not as epic as I really wanted it to be, but Return of the Reaper does, I think, reach the expectations I had for this release. So my rating for this album would have to be a 7.5 out of 10. I was thinking about giving it a 7, but I rethought about it and listened to the album 2 more times, and thankfully I did. I waited an extra day to review it, because I was going to review it before and give it a 7, but after listening to the album twice, repeating again before I now reviewing it, that I have to give it a 7.5, because there are some pretty damn good songs on this release, so I can't just, bring down the rating just because of those few tracks. So anyways, guys, that's it. That's the end of review, 7.5 out of 10. Thank you guys for watching. That's the end of review. If you like the video, like the video. If you want to see me or my stuff, click my name or subscribe to see more. Thank you guys for watching. See ya.